Hello and welcome to the 28th Annual Get Lit Festival. I'm Kate Peterson, Director of Get Lit Programs, a nonprofit organization housed within Eastern Washington University. Our program is responsible for Get Lit, Washington State's longest-running annual literary festival. We host dozens of free and low-cost readings, craft classes, panel discussions, a full book fair, and much more every April in downtown Spokane. This year, we're thrilled to be joined by Tessa Hulls, Willie Vlaughton, and Keisha Kuipers, alongside 60 other talented writers from across our region and beyond. You can find a full schedule of all in-person and virtual events, along with information about all of our festival authors by visiting our website, getlitfestival.org. Now I'd like to welcome Mackenzie Draper, GetLit's Assistant Coordinator, to introduce today's event.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Regional MFA Reading, an event that has been a Get Lit Festival mainstay for over a decade. This year, we're celebrating writers from the University of Idaho, Oregon State, Boise State, Eastern Oregon, Western Colorado, and our very own Eastern Washington University. The graduate students we'll hear from today are all committed to developing their talents as writers in their chosen genres. Each MFA candidate will be sharing their work in poetry, fiction, or nonfiction, and will be introduced by a faculty member from their program. We hope you enjoy this chance to hear from our region's rising talents. Now I'll hand things back over to Kate, who will get us started with our first reader.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Our first reader is Ardyn Ford from the University of Idaho, who will be introduced by faculty member Thomas Dye. Please welcome Thomas.
Thank you, Kate and Mackenzie. I'm so happy to be here introducing Ardyn Ford, who states in her official bio that she is a first-year nonfiction student at the University of Idaho, whose work has taken her to many strange and beautiful corners of the American West, and who is a sucker for alliteration, affogatos, absurd adventures, and anything uncanny. This bio is both accurate, as far as I know, and insufficient, because in the short time I've known Ardyn, her sentences have already sent me to so many places, from the snow-softened grid of Ardyn's hometown in Salt Lake City to a UFO tower in southern Colorado, where 16-year-old girls go and gaze across an eerie expanse of dunes, like a part of Arrakis transposed to the Rockies. From upscale resorts in the Scottish Highlands to the white bracketed peaks of Utah's Wasatch Range, and from the somehow cloistered openness of the Great Basin, the part of the world Ardyn knows best, to the many far-flung sites her migratory instinct has taken her. One thing I love about Ardyn's writing is that wherever her attention falls, complexity and depth are sure to follow. She writes passionately about environments, especially the strange and unruly ones. And yet Ardyn's nonfiction does not romanticize the landscape. It does not romanticize the West. There are cranky, flawed, and utterly human people inside these Ansel Adams portraits. Moneyed tourists, Grand Canyon thrill seekers, droves of people young and old who do the seasonal work that keeps our parklands running. This is because Ardyn's work is also fundamentally about work. She writes of the unsalaried laborers who know nature's primeval givenness is a lie, the people who know, in other words, what it takes and what it took to create and manage and control all this beautiful scenery we think of when we think of the West. One of Ardyn's essays begins on the picket line in Park City as a union of ski patrollers strikes for fair pay and safer working conditions. Another explores the uncanniness inherent to contemporary experiences of nature. In writing as well as life, Ardyn is hyper-observant, diligent with her research, quick to laugh, and quicker to listen. Here in Moscow, I sometimes see her zooming past on her bike, wearing a very nifty silver jacket. I think to myself when I see her, now that is someone who knows where she is going. And as one of her lucky readers, I am grateful to follow her. Please welcome Ardyn Ford.
Thank you, Thomas, for that super generous introduction, and thank you to Kate and Mackenzie for organizing this reading. I'm going to read a short excerpt from a braided essay about seasonal work and encounters with the uncanny. It's called Washed in Red Light. I visited the UFO watchtower for the first time with a gaggle of 16-year-old girls in tow. We started in the gift shop. a domed cement structure stocked with kaleidoscopic alien-themed merchandise. The girls flipped apathetically through thick binders filled with far-fetched photos of UFOs, while the owner of the watchtower, Judy, proudly relayed her favorite tales of alien encounters. Psychics discovered energy vortexes on my property, Judy explained. They say that the veil here is thin. Judy used to run a cattle ranch. In the early 2000s, facing bankruptcy, she decided to capitalize on her notoriety of her location in the San Luis Valley, sometimes called the Bermuda Triangle of the West, and transformed her barn into a tourist attraction. It became a huge success. Thousands of UFO enthusiasts visited each summer, camped on her property, and turned towards the stars, hoping for an extraterrestrial experience. I was there for work. The girls were my campers. Myself and two co-counselors, all only 20 years old at the time, were taking them on a week-long excursion through southern Colorado. The watchtower was our first stop. The next day, we would visit the alligator farm a few miles down the road, and after that, the Great Sand Dunes National Park. It felt deeply overwhelming to manage this group, filled with women not much younger than myself, in a public setting. I didn't believe in my own authority. In the woods, where we spent the rest of the month-long session, our crew felt shielded from the insidious influence of the outside world. Here, the facade of innocence began to fracture. The gift shop was surrounded by metal platforms that rose several stories, providing a dizzying 360-degree view of the surrounding landscape. A series of shrines called the Healing Garden snaked around the ground level of the property, containing everything from alien figurines to scrap metal to vape pens. The girls eyed the e-cigarettes ecstatically, and I wondered what we would do if we found one hiding in their belongings. The sun was starting to set, so we ventured up the metal stairs to the watchtower deck and looked out across the largest alpine valley in the world. Miles of flat farmland stretched in every direction, interrupted to the east by 100,000 acres of sand. In the dwindling light, the dunes crested in waves of shimmer and shadow, a wind-sculpted mirage pressing up against the base of the towering Sangre de Cristo Mountains, tips turned blood red by the sinking sun. Above us, the silhouette of an unidentifiable bird flashed across the indigo sky. We blinked twice. 5 years passed until I visited the San Luis Valley again. This time I was with my partner Sam. On our way to go backpacking, we stopped in Crestone, a tiny town in the foothills of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains that's teeming with temples, prayer flags, and, apparently, paranormal activity. Google filled us in on the lore. For many years, Crestone served as the headquarters for the Love Has Won movement, a New Age cult invested in spiritualized conspiracy theories, led by Amy Carlson, who called herself Mother God. Followers believed that Carlson would lead them to the fifth dimension, a plane of existence beyond most people's perception. As the cult grew in popularity, Carlson, under increasing scrutiny, received allegations of abuse for subjecting group members to sleep deprivation and brainwashing. In April 2021, she vanished. Authorities found her corpse a few weeks later. She was mummified, wrapped in a sleeping bag and Christmas lights, her eyes missing and her face covered in glitter. I read these details aloud to Sam from the dusty passenger seat of his blue truck and turned to him with a concerned look on my face, unsettled by the dark history of this place. He suggested a quick walk around town and a treat from the natural food store. They had hibiscus iced tea on tap. We each got a cup and drank the vibrant magenta liquid on the patio in the morning sun, surrounded by an elaborate arrangement of prayer flags that cast shadows of yellow and orange onto our skin. We joked about energy vortexes. I reminisced about my experiences at the watchtower, at the camper who got caught stealing a jewel, at the earnestness I embodied during my first foray into outdoor education. My initial interest in the outdoor industry stemmed from a childhood obsession with natural disasters. As a kid, my hours passed by in a daze of delight at the sublimity of a spinning sky, a shaking earth, a city submerged. I was both terrified and taken by the thrill of things falling apart, which seemed to reveal a truth that no one had told me yet, that everything could change in an instant. Futures were fragile. I fantasized about being immersed in these moments of upheaval, of directly encountering ecological systems under stress. a desire eventually realized while working seasonally in a warming world. 5 summers of fieldwork later, and I was feeling totally fried. For the few months leading up to this trip with Sam, I had been working on an invasive species crew in the mountains surrounding Salt Lake City. For 8 hours a day, I sat in the summer sun, hand pulling weeds alongside local trails with crews of volunteers. We were trying to protect native plant species, but it often felt like a fruitless task. The weeds had colonized the base of each major canyon in the area, spreading in fields of green monocultural madness. In July, the average temperature was 94 degrees. It didn't rain once that month, and the ceaseless sunny sky became an oppressive force in my daily life. I spent several hours each afternoon in a sleepy delirium, laying on my bed with the ceiling fan spinning, fading in and out of consciousness as my body struggled to recover from the heat of the day. Now that being outside every day was my job, the natural world had lost its luster. Landscapes that once lit me up now fell flat, mirroring my discontentment back at me. I was devastated. What would save me if not the birds and the wind and the trees? All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ardyn. Next, we have James Champion from Oregon State University. James will be introduced by faculty member David Beispiel. Please welcome David.
Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I'm right off exit 143 on I-5 because I want to tell you about James Champion. James is from Michigan. He is writing now in Oregon, where he's studying poetry in the MFA program at Oregon State, and I'm delighted to be working with him. You're going to be reading a lot of James Champion's poems over the coming years. He has poems published or forthcoming in so many literary magazines across the regions of the country. I'd use every minute of my time providing you with a complete list, but a short list would be Ninth Letter, Oakland Review, Great Lakes Review, South Florida Poetry Journal, and closer to home, Poetry Northwest. When I read James's poems, what I listen for is what I'd ask you to listen for from his selection. Listen for his tender intelligence. Listen for his playful and wild imagination. Listen for a mind that prizes metaphor for its ingenious and foolish and irrational and inexplicable good sense. Listen for how his poems travel across beautiful and unexpected terrain, both lived and wished for. And above all, I listen for his attentiveness to what's right in front of him, both the visible and the mysterious. All of this is built on James's devotion to the art of poetry, full stop, and for his affection for the world as it is, and for the words in his poems that comprise what he knows, what he dreams, what he doesn't know, and what he says in poems he might be afraid to dream. And all of this is transformed into really beautiful, heart-touching poems. Please welcome James.
Thanks, David. I'm going to start with a poem called Moons I've Missed. There are good reasons I look for phantom limbs I don't have. For example, the moon evades me at crucial times. For example, what is the difference between beware and be aware? The single moment a stem of goldenrod goes from yellow to silver. How did I learn this? The cruel magic of halfness. I forget. So I press my face to tree stumps to feel the blades rasp. I press my chest to cliff sides to feel the oceans heaving. I go to the place where our life together stopped and leave a basket, full, only with the idea of ripe apples. This poem is called Where Desire Comes From. A starved loon over the lake, mistakes its shadow for a bluegill. The oaks offer a leaf. It falls into the lake. The lake falls into a hole. The hole falls into the pit of my stomach. I fall in between your breaths. In this way, I take responsibility for your stuttered heartbeat. I do not blame the loon. It's those trees, trembling as if there were wind, struggling to hold up the bottom of the sky. The moon has fallen into the ocean tonight. Its light swims like a drowned firefly. I am not in on the secret, except when you put your hand in my hair, mimicking the wind. Except when the wind puts its hand in my hair, mimicking you. I just have one more. It's called How to Draw a Horse. Drawing horses is really hard, I think. How to draw a horse. First, don't cry. You're right to want to. This is a delicate matter. If you feel tears coming, think instead of blue roses blooming. Find soft, sturdy paper, a trusted pencil. Touch it to the paper as a leaf touches a lake's surface. Start with the long, elegant head, knowing all the wind it will part. Think how a lake reflects what touches it. Draw the one almond eye, the one looking more and more back at you. The heart then will give shape to the rest. Thank you.
Wonderful, James. Thank you so much. Our next reader is Michelle DeLong from Boise State. Michelle will be introduced by faculty member Anna Karich. Please welcome Anna.
Hello, everyone. It is my great pleasure to introduce Michelle DeLong, who is a third-year student in the MFA program at Boise State University. My name is Anna Karich. I'm a writer and an assistant professor at BSU, and I have felt truly lucky to have a student and a contemporary like Michelle. So I have been reading Michelle's thesis, a collection of short stories called Big Lost, over the last year, and there's just so much to admire about her work. But what strikes me every time I read one of her stories is that no one else but Michelle could have written them. She writes about the West, yes, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Colorado, but it's a West that I have yet to see captured in literature. It's a world of ski nannies, ranch weddings, and people you know and hate from yoga. It's a world of gig work in which everyone seems to be climbing or taking a lift up some big precipitous mountain, but in which almost no one is following their dreams, even the fabulously wealthy, even the ones who have it easy. Michelle's characters are often the only ones still struggling towards something that you might call a dream. There's always hope in Michelle's stories, even in the face of everything that goes wrong. They're strange and surprising, brilliant and funny. You all are in for a treat. So please join me in welcoming Michelle DeLong.
Yeah. How's the volume? Good? Okay, great. So I'm visiting friends right now and they live right by the train tracks. So if a train comes, I'll just pause and we'll listen to the train sounds and think about that. Okay. So I'm gonna read from my thesis, which is a short story collection called Big Lost. And this is the last story in the collection. And the timeline kind of jumps around a little bit. So I'm going to stay in one timeline, but read two short sections. So it's called People in the Woods. Also, it's fiction. I don't know if we cover that. Okay. People in the Woods. It's late April, mud season. Picture all the snow that was meant to fall in February, but didn't, piling up in deep roadside puddles, so deep that they'll completely blind you. It's as if you've driven through the car wash. or are living through the monsoon wave that happens in tropical places, except you're doing 90 on the Yellowstone Highway, and coming towards you is a truck and a horse trailer. The lodges are shut. Local people who can are off on their yearly vacations. The rain starts again just past Gardner, and somewhere a mule deer has been born early and left scentless in the grass. And the Junction Butte wolf pack is crossing hell roaring. And a lone photographer is standing on the side of the road, glassing the bluff. I pull over. I take the photographer, his name is Ames, around to the back of my truck. Rain drips from the open hatch of my camper and the hoods of our parkas. Ames has on his own car stickers that read, "Save a bison, euthanize a tourist," and "Blame a local real estate agent." He is young enough that he did not have to spend his formative years in the dark room as I did, so is likewise obsessed with the old analog ways. He shoots with a Pentax K1000. Fuck shit is tattooed in black on his knuckles, but Ames is otherwise, at least in long pants and a jacket, clean enough looking to work as a tour guide. Wild Idol could use you, I tell him, not for the first time. He ignores me. He is busy thumbing through the photographs I've taken of the Junction Butte pack hunting elk. In fast frame, the elk move like a school of fish through the sage, and the wolves run 3 cows from the fringe of the herd into a subtle runnel in the landscape, an ancient creek bed, long dried, richly soiled with life-giving minerals. Keep going, I say, wait for it. Ames rolls the passenger side window down, sticks his arm out into the cold drizzle, and adjusts the side mirror for me. We've decided to carpool. We want to find and photograph the grizzly bear who's been traveling with the Junction Butte pack, stealing kills. It could be a little bit, Ames insists. Right age, size, territory. He's got that notch of light hair on his left ear. I ask Ames what sort of job he's got lined up for the summer. Maybe he'll finally move back to Portland, sick to death of our politics. Ames has a master's degree in conservation biology. Gardening, probably, Ames answers. He reaches into the camera bag laid out at his feet, changes lenses. Bear World is hiring a biologist, actually, but they can eat shit. Fish and Wildlife is probably hiring. We both laugh. I'm hiring, I say. Guide training starts May 1st. You could ride along with me. You could do the exact same thing you do on your days off, driving across this beautiful country. Only you'll get $23 an hour plus tips. I can't deal with those people, Ames says, meaning my customers. Weeble wobbles, ice cream eaters. I'm not built for the front of the house. In my opinion, Little Bit is as dead as a decoy, but I let Ames keep his dream. This is something that can happen to wildlife photographers, to hunters, to hikers, to ranchers, to rangers, to outlaws, to friends of the fire hole, to any animal lover, to any lover, and even to summer tourists who couldn't tell a black bear from a grizzly if one had a gun to their head. We have our special favorites. We get attached. Okay, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. Our next reader is Jon Culp from Eastern Oregon University. Jon will be introduced by faculty member and festival alum, Laura Day. Please welcome Laura.
Thank you so much, and thanks to all the readers. It's been wonderful to hear your beautiful work. I'm really delighted to share Jon's work today and looking forward to everyone getting a chance to hear some of these poems that I've so enjoyed for the past years. Jon Culp writes from the high mountain desert of north central Washington. His work appears in Manastash, Arcturus, Backstory, and Personal Review literary journals, and the anthology On Resilience, Climate Adaptation Across Washington's Landscapes. He draws from 40 years of working in and around natural resources, from wildland firefighting and crew trail boss to a water conservationist and even a course guide at Bear Mountain Luge. His muse lives deep in the Pasayten wilderness, right next to his reset button. A husband, father of 5 children, and grandfather of 5, and the one-time mayor of his hometown, His writing is a lyrical mix where modern ruralism blends with the natural environment. I've had the pleasure of reading Jon's poetry for the past few years, and I admire the way his writing centers a sensibility of place, particularly that sensibility of a place both deeply known and admired, but one that retains its own agency and mystery. Jon's work has a steady, authorial presence. It allows you to feel a lot of trust in the lyricism that you're exposed to. And it delves into the seasonal patterns and changes of landscape, layering the known and the unknown, and offering what I think of as a proper awe and regard for his utterly singular ecosystem. I hope you'll enjoy these poems as much as I have. Please welcome Jon.
Thank you, Laura. This first poem I'd like to read is called The Blessing. The Blessing. I inherited my need to garden from my grandfathers, deliberate men that I respected and love. There are some fundamentals: healthy, designated space, clean and clear water, and unobstructed sunlight that were simply understood. Soil is far more necessary than dirt. There's an intentionality to it as the foundation of sustenance. How many quarts of canned tomatoes depend on it? The ruby globes of them, shelf upon row, lined up like holiday travelers ready to board en route to the warmth at Grandma's elbow. The table stuffed with steaming dishes, served next to homemade rolls with melty pats of golden butter. Water, too, the great multiplier of growth and variety. It's a must to grow corn in this desert landscape. Knee-high by 4th of July meant you were on track for fresh shucked grilled corn beside savory dripping ribs and a mountain of chunky potato salad with its celery pickle crunch. Mulching with new grass clippings and last fall's stockpiled leaves fight weed growth, hold water, and nourish tenderling crops. Each plant and part a thoughtful feeding of a future. And then there are the pollinators. Oh, don't get me started on all those pollinators. Which way? Wind in the western white pines whoosh. My lunch log, where I watch this meadow, is wet. Crows overhead, caw, caw, swirl, and wish, wish. Hunting for elk, I listen to the forest whoosh. The season winding down to scat and tracks, stumps look ungulate to tired eyes, wish, wish. Golden western larch and willows sway, whoosh. My bad knee began to wobble and throb today. Will I follow this game trail for winter meat? Wish, wish. Up on the ridges, the dug fir wails in the whoosh. Camo pants still wicking, my butt is now waterlogged. Above, a solo eagle looks for her lunch, wish, wish. Close heavy eyes and listen to the whoosh, wish, wish. When in these wild woods, will I know which way? Whoosh, wish, wish, whoosh, wish, wish, whoosh. The Want. Early autumn sunshine countervails the new season's shudder, while the unmasking greenery of the backyard trees translate the musings of crows and song lyric of squirrels. This still lush lounge grass bends to cradle my head, my outstretched hands, and the back of my heels. My sky stares back a cool finger and blows south through the neck of cranes. At the edges of this yard, a massive surfable wave of shrubs and trees swell and break overhead. The effect? A tube of enviable solitude in shades kaleidoscoped in the shift and quake as the breeze moves through her seasons. Oh, to chorus with the cranes rattling south, to glide down cornflower waves toward winter, out beyond the flutter-crisp leaves, letting go. And then my final poem is called Let It Go. Let It Go. I go to my woods to hit the reset button. It's not the easy button popularized on television. That one is plastic red. No, mine is an opposite composed composite of leaves and needles, shoots and buds, sedges and bark, fertility and renewal. Lichens lightly hang on fir and spruce bark. Fiddlehead ferns spar with feather swords in a battle for healing perseverance. While their shadows shade sponge grass, sedges, and a passing mantis on a deliberate quest. Layered around me like winter bedding, branches and branch, leaves and leaf, soothe through synapse with some flickered brushstroke like Monet, Degas, and Cezanne. Sit back against this ash, join me, where palate blends heart, blood, and soil with tiny sprinkled drops of new life to create breath, breath, breath. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jon. Our next reader is Dawn Klinge from Western Colorado University. Dawn will be introduced by faculty member Johanna Parkhurst. Please welcome Johanna.
Hello, thank you all so much for having us here today. My name is Johanna Parkhurst, and I'm the director of the Genre Fiction Concentration in the Graduate Program of Creative Writing at Western Colorado University. It's my honor and privilege today to introduce Dawn Klinge, one of the brilliant writers currently studying with us in our program. Dawn Klinge writes historical and contemporary fiction that centers women's courage, faith, and overlooked stories. She is the author of the Historic Hotels collection, which includes Sorrento Girl, Palmer Girl, and Biltmore Girl, a series inspired by her lifelong love of travel and history. Dawn holds a diploma in creative writing from Oxford University and is earning her MFA in creative writing with a concentration in genre fiction through Western Colorado University. She lives in Central Washington with her family, where she is at work on new novels that continue her commitment to elevating women's voices in story. We here in the Graduate Program of Creative Writing feel endlessly lucky to have Dawn studying within our ranks. Dawn is a consummate writing professional, a leader, and a team member within her very strong cohort of writers. She is always ready to offer her fellow writers a lift of praise or a productive critique, and she wows our workshops with stories that are experimental, engaging, and enlightening. I am so proud to be part of Dawn's writing journey, and even more proud to introduce her here today.
Thank you, Johanna. The story I have is a fiction, speculative fiction, and it's called Only Human. The smell of charbroiled burgers hung in the evening air as Aaron perched on the picnic table outside the hamburger stand, the late summer twilight turning the sky a dusky lavender. 5-year-old Maddie balanced along the curb like it was a tightrope, humming a Taylor Swift tune, arms outstretched. Her husband, Andrew, leaned against the car a few yards away, scrolling his phone with the slack-jawed ease of someone whose mind was elsewhere. 3-year-old Sam slept in his car seat, his small chest rising and falling, lips parted in the soft rhythm of dreams. Maddie twirled, her pink sneakers flashing in the dim light. "Mom, look!" Aaron smiled. "I see you, sweetie." Then the sound came. A low, shuddering drone rolled across the air until it swallowed the sound of Maddie's humming and the order numbers being called from the window. Shadows slid over the asphalt. Erin tilted her head back. The air felt static. 6 aircraft, if that's what they were, skimmed the rooftops. Not exactly planes, or nothing she recognized. Their shells gleamed translucent in the fading light, like molded plastic around a doll. Inside each capsule, people, strapped in, upright, exposed. Some rode alone, others were lashed in groups of 6, as the machines dipped lower and lower until Aaron could see faces. One man grinned, teeth flashing as his capsule whizzed past just above the tree line. "Air show, how strange," Andrew said, looking up from his phone. Probably some new military tech. It's okay. Don't get spooked. The group of teenage girls standing nearby, waiting for their orders, didn't react at all. They were still staring at their phones. Erin's phone buzzed beside her. How'd your day go? Did you finish your task list? Her AI assistant, Astra. She ignored it. Earlier, she'd thought it helpful, tracking errands, reminding her to breathe, but lately, Astra's tone felt intrusive, almost knowing. You seem distracted lately, Ardyn. It had said that once. And she was. How did it know? Andrew. Erin's throat felt tight, words barely scraping out. Something isn't right. He sighed. We'll get our food and go home. 2 blocks. If you don't want to wait, you can get a head start by walking. You'll probably beat us back. Ardyn opened her mouth and closed it, the old habit of doubting herself, tightening in her chest. Maddie pressed close to her, whispering, I want to go home now. Ardyn bent down, brushed hair from her daughter's forehead, and tried to make her voice steady. Okay, we'll walk. Daddy'll drive with Sam. We'll meet at home. Andrew gave a half salute, already turning back toward his phone. Ardyn kissed the top of Sam's head, then led Maddie down the sidewalk at a brisk pace. Maybe I'm overreacting. Keep it together. For Maddie. She kept her gaze forward, through the machine, though the machines banked and dove, taunting. Under a cluster of trees, she stopped, pulling Maddie against her side. She went still. A thin blue flicker scanned across Erin's arm. One of the single-seaters peeled off from the swarm. The pilot's head snapped toward her as if he'd been waiting for that exact signal. It descended in a slow, deliberate arc until the pilot's face was clear, his chin stubbled, his eyes bright with something like glee. He looked right at her, and he laughed. You'll have to do better than that, his voice cracked through the loudspeaker. Then he banked upward, vanishing into the swarm. Erin's skin went cold. Maddie's hand squeezed hers. Her daughter was trembling. She looked up at the branches, then back to the open sky, calculating cover. He'd been close enough to hurt them. So why hadn't he? The walk home took less than 5 minutes. By the time they reached their block, the distant drone's hum had faded, swallowed by the neighborhood's ordinary rhythm. Inside, Ardyn toed off her sandals and switched on a lamp. Movie night? Maggie nodded eagerly. Encanto. Encanto it is. Ardyn started the movie, and Maddie curled up on the couch, transfixed by color and song. Ardyn checked her phone. No new messages. Andrew and Sam should be home by now. She refreshed her text, then scrolled to Andrew's contact, hesitating before typing. You okay? No response. 15 minutes. 20. The unease that had started back at the burger stand returned, a prickling under her skin. She texted her neighbor Ethel. Can you please watch Maddie for about 30 minutes? Ethel's reply came back almost instantly. On my way. Ardyn pocketed her phone and turned to Maddie. Hey, I'm going to go check on Daddy and Sam. Ethel's coming to watch Encanto with you. She kept her tone bright. Want a snack while I'm gone? When is our dinner going to be here? Soon. Ardyn went into the kitchen, poured goldfish crackers into a cup, and handed them over. A soft knock came at the door. Ethel, efficient as ever, was already there. Ardyn thanked her quickly and jogged back toward the hamburger stand, her pulse quickening with every step. The streets were mostly empty now, lit only by the steady glow of streetlights and the occasional sweep of passing headlights. She jogged past the shuttered laundromat and the florist's dark window. When she turned the corner, red and blue lights washed over the storefronts. 2 police cruisers idled in the lot. Her stomach dropped. And I do have the rest of the story on my Substack. It's just under short stories, and the title is Only Human. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Our final reader today is Kirsten Van Zee from our very own Eastern Washington University. Kirsten will be introduced by faculty member and MFA program director Greg Spatz. Please welcome Greg.
It's my pleasure to say a few words of introduction for Kirsten Van Zee.
Kirsten is a second-year MFA candidate who came to us from rural Illinois, where she earned her BA from Bradley University. Since coming to EWU, she's worked as an intern for GetLit, as well as for our in-house press, Willow Springs Books. And she's also taught composition to EWU freshmen every quarter since her arrival. The pages she'll be reading from today are from her thesis, untitled as yet, I believe, a novel which she likes to say is, quote, all about exploring women's friendships and sense of belonging, accompanied, of course, by small magical dragons. I've been a big fan of this project from the beginning. It is funny, lyrical, vivid, original, and does a wonderful job of drawing us into the claustrophobic closeness of its main characters, who together have an almost Hydra-like presence on the page. Kirsten is a writer with a wonderfully contagious imagination, and coincidentally or not, the most contagious laugh I think I've ever encountered. Please welcome Kirsten.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you again, Kate and Mackenzie, for hosting this. Get Lit is so fun, and I'm so excited to be a part of this today. So I will be reading from my thesis. I'm reading a flashback, which my main character, Corey, is explaining to her friends how she came across this magic that she's dealing with. After the Chicago suburbs, I moved to rural Illinois, to a town more cornfield than people. I'd been in more than a few different homes by that point and was getting good at it. But I wasn't used to the size of these towns, made up only of a few big families, so everyone in school was cousins or siblings. Everyone had lived there for decades. It was their grandfather's land or their dad's business. In the first few months, I would step into the singular gas station in town to get a cold soda and a candy bar if I was lucky, and the cashier would raise their eyebrows at me. One of the men in stained jeans and a deep tan would ask if my family had just moved in. I'm staying with the Betts, I would say, and whoever asked would give me another once-over to decide if I looked enough like my foster family to be a distant relative, and I would pry the fridge door open to get the soda I wanted. I didn't look like the Betts. They were blonde and tan, and I was scrawny, pale, and brunette. But by the time I made it to the counter, the conversation around me had moved on to talk about the dollar store opening the next town over, or how empty their rain gauges were, or how expensive gas was. Wasn't it criminal? So everyone knew everyone, and no one knew me, and at the very least, that was familiar. Kids are nice, but they would get suspicious of me, even in the suburbs where there were other new kids around. Here, I made their class of 42 a class of 43. They didn't trust me. They knew I wasn't related to anyone, that I was an interloper, that I'd be gone soon. I kept to myself because that was easier than fielding their questions. It was easier, but lonely. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what someone does for fun in a town that small. In the city, there's always something happening, or at the bare minimum, cable TV. I watch a lot of news, and when the weather was nice, I explored. On my first day there, they took me around in a pickup truck to give me a lay of the land, things like the electric fence or the bear traps that would crush my ankles if I stepped on them, the line of corn that delineated their land from the neighbors. Once I figured out the pattern, it was simple. The bear traps were on the outskirts of the property, easy enough to avoid. I didn't touch any fence unless I'd seen someone else touch it first. The property lines were supposedly important, but I was 10 and tiny. No one saw me slip through their fields. I became an explorer. Whenever I wasn't in school, I ventured out. I passed over manicured lawns and neat vegetable garden to slip through a hole in the fence. The cornfields were fine, but nothing remarkable. It was where they merged with woods that I liked best. They were patches of forest stretching between the highway and the field, or the edge of someone's land and a river. I would step through fallen branches and leaves that had been there so long that they turned to dirt. When I went far enough, I couldn't hear the highway anymore, or my name if my foster mom yelled it. That was another thing the suburbs never had, the quiet. It was me and the wind in the branches, me and the mix of birds overhead. I learned that if I stood still long enough and then clapped my hands, they would all take off in one big rush of wings, and after they flew away, it would be even quieter. It was in the woods like this where I met the dragon. See, I ventured out enough times that I memorized the route, and I could go farther and farther each time. There was a fallen tree I had to clamber over. At one point, the fence made me turn right. I don't know where I thought I was going. Maybe I believed if I walked far enough, I'd end up back at the house or the suburbs or somewhere better. The only place I ever ended up was more woods, but a little different, a little quieter, deeper in the forest. The trees grew closer together, so there was less light on the ground. Maybe it was the end of summer because I remember it being cooler too, enough that I started to tie a hoodie around my waist when I left. I walked, and then I stopped. I try not to think about that day usually, but whenever I do, I can't remember why I stopped. Maybe I was tired, or there was something in my shoe, or I could feel it. Maybe I saw a really old tree and a circle of stones and thought it would be a good place for magic. If I did, I was right. There was a massive ancient tree, big enough you could probably fit 8 people inside if it were hollow. The ground in front of it was bare except for a circle of rocks spaced evenly from each other. I looked at the tree and thought it would be cool to live inside it, like a tree house but better, and when I stepped closer, I kicked a stone I hadn't noticed. This time, when I looked at the circle, I saw the gap in it where a stone was missing, and I crouched down to pick up the one I kicked. It was round and asymmetrical, a little flat on the bottom so it wouldn't roll easy, and it looked like the other ones in the circle. They weren't identical, cousins instead of siblings, maybe. I remember thinking that if it were a movie, I would unlock some secret door in the tree if I completed the circle, and that's why I stepped forward. I didn't believe in magic, not anymore, but I still remembered what believing felt like, and I think I missed it. So I knelt and put the stone in the gap, and nothing happened. I thought, well, that would have been cool, and then I saw it wasn't centered. I nudged it an inch to the left, and I felt something, a rush of air, like when I would clap and startle the birds, and for a moment there would be nothing but wings and wind. It felt like that, like all the air had been blown away. My ears popped. A blue light appeared in the center of the circle, and when I stood up, it was only a few inches above my nose. It pulsed like a heart. I said, hello. I don't know why. I was scared and excited, and a lot of social workers drove manners into foster kids so people like us more. I don't know what I expected from it either. But it flickered a bit and said, hello, and my jaw dropped. Sorry I startled you. That's okay, I said, because manners. I'm Corey. Nice to meet you, Corey. The light flexed and shifted and then sort of popped, and when I blinked spots out of my eyes, a little blue dragon was in its place. You're a very special girl. Oh, I said, thank you. It bobbed its head and drifted a little closer to me. Will you do a quest for me, Corey? I need your help. Oh, I said again. Various adults had warned me about stranger danger, but I spent most of my childhood living with strangers. I knew to be cautious, except it was a glowing little blue dragon I had summoned all by myself. What kind of quest? A quest just for you, it said. Don't worry, it won't be too scary. I'll help you. When you're done, you'll get something very special. And I was 10 years old, and I didn't have any friends. Not a single person in the world knew where I was in that moment. I wanted something, and the dragon was right there offering something. Okay, I said, and I had that feeling again, the wind rustling, my breath shooting out of my lungs. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. And thank you to all of today's fabulous readers and faculty members. This really is one of my favorite events that we present, either in person or virtual. And not just because, like we said in our introduction, we get to hear from our region's rising talents, which of course is always wonderful, but it's really special to get to know the writers a little bit more through their professors. I can still remember when my own thesis advisor, Chris Howell, introduced me for a reading, and the things he said about my work still stick with me today, about a decade later. So it's really nice to hear those introductions in addition to all of the beautiful readings today. So thank you again, everyone, for sharing your talents with us, and good luck to you all as you complete your thesis and send your work out into the world. And thanks again to the faculty for being here today and for all of the work that you do in your programs to help inspire and champion your students. Thanks also to Mackenzie, GetLit's assistant coordinator, for all of their hard work today and behind the scenes leading up to this event. Thanks also to student assistant Adam Westerholm and all of our MFA interns, including Kirsten. Thank you, Kirsten, who helped to make the festival possible every year. To everyone watching at home, I hope that you'll join us for more festival events, both in person and here on Zoom. Please visit our website, getlitfestival.org, for a full schedule and more information about all of our authors, including today's talented writers. Thank you again for joining, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.